Is continuing worth the risk? Indeed, to win. We've always done that. The money never mattered. When lacking, we raced. He was called the Intimidator for a reason. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was more than a driver with 76 wins, millions in prize money, and a Daytona legacy. He represented fearless control, unshakable grit, and Southern motorsport royalty. But on February 18, 2001, a single shocking moment ended it all. An apparent bump in the final lap became the crash that silenced a legend and shook NASCAR. Heartbreaking ensued. The final lap at Daytona. What happened? He was here before. Same track, crowd roar, tight turns at terrifying speed. Dale Earnhardt's cathedral was Daytona. He knew its high banks and long straights inside and out. He ruled, bled, and raised trophies above its finish line. That February afternoon, he wasn't leading the race, but he was doing something important. He guarded it. Last lap of 2001 Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt Sr. held back the pack. His son, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and driver Michael Waltrip led the race. Behind them, Dale Sr. blocked, slid, and defended the inside line with his car. It was deliberate and calculated. He did not race alone anymore. One mistake in a fast-paced chess match, as team captain, meant disaster. It happened. Sterling Marlin's car hit Earnhardt's rear quarter panel in turn 4, seconds before the checkered flag. Not violent. Contact occurred dozens of times per race. Even a light nudge can kill at 150 mph. After veering down, Earnhardt's car snapped up toward the wall. Ken Schrader's car approached. Dale's number 3 Chevrolet hit the outside barrier head first after the collision. The situation was not dire. Not initially. Car skidded to a stop after hitting the wall. No fire, no drama, no part explosion. It crashed. Nothing to make stadium fans gasp. It appeared resilient. Dale had escaped this wreck 100 times. It was different this time. He was first reached by Ken Schrader. He exited his wrecked car and ran to the number 3 car. He fled immediately after seeing what he saw. His face altered. His posture sank. He later told reporters he would not describe what he saw, not because he wanted to protect Dale, but because he had seen death. Medical staff arrived quickly. Earnhardt was rushed to Halifax Medical Center from the wreckage. The world waited. Fans remained silent. Pit workers stopped. Broadcasters, usually excited at the race's end, spoke quietly. NASCAR had changed forever, but they didn't realize it. Many feared what doctors confirmed at 5:16 p.m. Dale Earnhardt Sr. died instantly from the impact. The man who seemed indestructible and built his reputation on intimidation and daring was gone. But how? How could a minor crash kill the track's most experienced driver? Fans were shocked by the autopsy's findings. A basilar skull fracture killed Earnhardt, according to the Volusia County Medical Examiner's autopsy report. This is a severe skull base break, often involving the brainstem. Earnhardt's car hit the wall at high speed, causing sudden, violent deceleration, one of the most deadly types of head trauma. The crash lasted seconds but had huge forces. The skull base was circled by a ring fracture. This injury causes instant brain damage. The moment his head whipped forward and violently snapped back during the impact killed Dale Earnhardt. Fast, silent, final. No pain or awareness, just sudden, irreversible stillness. In addition to blunt force trauma to the chest, the autopsy found fractured ribs, a broken left ankle, and seatbelt abrasions. In the aftermath, seatbelt failure rumors spread quickly. Some believed it was altered before the race. Others thought it tore on impact. Medical staff and team members denied those rumors. Tommy Probst, a rescue worker who tried to save Earnhardt, said the seatbelt was intact when he arrived, but the result was the same. The head trauma was fatal enough. The absence of the Hans device, a head and neck support, contributed. NASCAR did not require the device, and Earnhardt refused to wear one, believing it limited his mobility. His fellow drivers agreed. That changed overnight. NASCAR promptly began an internal review. Within days, the organization was reviewing crash footage, car parts, and medical experts to determine how one of the sport's greatest legends died in a survivable crash. The results were damning. Overly rigid cars, overly hard walls. Safety gear was old. This brutal awakening came for a sport that had prioritized speed and spectacle for decades. Earnhardt's death revealed a painful truth. Change was needed. And it did. New safety standards were implemented this year. The Hans device was mandated. Car interiors were redesigned to absorb energy. Safer crash barriers were installed. Steel and foam energy reduction panels reduced blunt impact trauma and kinetic force. Reinforced cockpits, helmets changed. Even the seats were improved to support the driver's head and shoulders. Earnhardt's death ended an era, but more. It started a revolution. While he cannot be resurrected, every driver who has survived a crash owes him. Not just on the track, but in an autopsy report that changed the rules. Tributes from around the world followed his death. Fan tears were evident at Daytona. Other racers wore black armbands. His signature number 3 car symbolized loss and respect. His toughness was no longer questioned. No more doubts about his commitment. The man who said he would rather die in a race car than fade away did that. He left a blueprint that could have saved hundreds of lives. The pain that day, especially for his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., was not philosophical. It was personal. Watching your father die at 200 mph is unforgettable. Jr. used grief to motivate. He brought the Earnhardt name to a new generation of racing, winning races, being the most popular driver, and advocating for safer racing. The way Dale Earnhardt died, quiet, sudden, and almost invisible to the untrained eye, is haunting. No smoke or flames, just a man who had survived everything the sport could throw at him, undone by a perfect storm of physics and fate. Maybe the world remembers it so well because if it happened to him, it can happen to anyone. The confirmation of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s death changed NASCAR culture. It was more than mourning. It counted. The sport had walked a fine line between thrilling spectacle and mortal danger for decades. Accidents were likely. Entertainment included crashes. However, the Intimidator died differently. Not just a legend was lost, a call to arms. NASCAR executives launched a full internal investigation within hours. Every race frame was replayed. Every mechanical part of Earnhardt's number 3 Chevrolet was checked. Medical records, car telemetry, and seatbelt fragments were examined. Nothing was off limits. Earnhardt's death in a moderate crash suggested that something fundamental was broken and needed to be fixed. The findings were unsettling. The cars improved in speed, stiffness, and aerodynamics. However, this made them more crash-prone. A car's rigidity helped it cut through air and transfer more force to the driver in an impact. It felt like being in a steel and fiberglass missile. Then walls, concrete, unforgiving, everywhere. Drivers hit them and reflected the force inward. The Daytona track was built for speed, not survival. Earnhardt hit turn 4's outside wall at an angle that sent all his energy into the cockpit. It was fatal because that energy had nowhere to go. Instant response. The Research and Development Center was created by NASCAR to improve driver safety. They consulted biomechanical engineers, trauma surgeons, and crash experts. Accidents could no longer be ignored in racing. We had to prioritize prevention. Restraints were the first breakthrough. The Hans device was mandatory within months. This head and neck support system secured Earnhardt's helmet to his shoulders, preventing whiplash that fractured his skull. Future drivers wearing the device cannot perform the motion that killed him. The safer barrier followed. Steel and foam energy reduction layers absorbed and distributed energy instead of concrete walls. These shock-absorbing barriers, developed by University of Nebraska engineers, reduced crash forces by 70%. They were first installed at Indianapolis and quickly spread to all NASCAR tracks. The cars changed drastically. In 2007, the car of the future had a wider frame, reinforced roof, and energy-absorbing cockpit materials. The driver was moved away from the door to reduce side impact trauma, redesigned roof flaps, upgraded roll cages. Everything about the car was rethought with one question in mind. How do we ensure the next Dale Earnhardt lives? Public opinion was mixed. Experienced fans worried the sport would become too regulated, sanitized, and slow. NASCAR was accused of using Earnhardt's death to justify commercial redesigns. Most knew what was at stake. The loss of a legendary driver was not in vain. If Dale Earnhardt had to die, the sport should learn. Some drivers initially resisted the changes. Refusing the Hans device, many said it was uncomfortable or restrictive. Seeing what happened that February afternoon eliminated resistance. Nobody wanted the next autopsy report. Crew chiefs, engineers, and pit crews trained differently. Safety drills became common, carefully analyzed crash simulations. No more instinctive flying. Data reigned. Earnhardt was everywhere, though gone. Facial features remained on merchandise. Honors echoed his name. The number 3 became sacred. More importantly, his death set the standard for all safety decisions. His legacy lived on in every helmet, protocol change, and softened barrier. Amazing things happened in the years that followed. NASCAR went fatality-free. Since 2001, no NASCAR driver has died in a major event. There have been horrific crashes, airborne flips, and car splits and burns. Drivers left bruised and shaken but alive. Dale is always mentioned. Fans still don't start with the rulebook when discussing NASCAR safety today. They start with one name, one number, and one crash on the final lap of the Daytona 500, because NASCAR woke up that day and never went back to sleep. The autopsy report. Car contents. The crash was seen by millions, but Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s fate was sealed in the wreckage, his body, and the first responders' silence. The public demanded answers for weeks. Truthful answers, not rumors. Autopsy yielded them. Answers were more than clinical. They devastated. An official autopsy was performed at Volusia County Medical Examiner's office near Daytona. Results were swift and clear. A basilar skull fracture, which kills most people, killed Dale Earnhardt instantly. A freak accident was not described in the report. The perfect storm of mechanical physics and human vulnerability. After hitting the wall, his head violently snapped forward and backward, causing a ring fracture at his skull base. Without a head restraint, no helmet or seat could stop that. Earnhardt lacked one. But the skull was not the only injury. A 5-point harness caused severe chest trauma, broken ribs, sternum, and left ankle fractures, according to the autopsy. The seatbelt was scrutinized. Some thought it was cut. Some said it broke on impact. Tears appeared in photos. Theories abound. NASCAR investigated the belt's integrity internally. They questioned safety engineers, reviewed manufacturing specs, and examined similar crashes. Tommy Probst, who tried to revive Dale on the track, stood by his findings, secured belt. Some, including Richard Childress' racing team, said the belt had sheared completely. The mystery deepened the pain. Even Earnhardt's seat was questioned. Some thought it was too low and reclined. A comfort choice? Visibility preference? Or a mistake that increased lethal injury risk? The investigation revealed an uncomfortable truth, but it could not prove it. Even the smallest detail can determine survival or tragedy. Fans' haunting question was answered by the autopsy. Did he suffer? The answer was no. Dale Earnhardt was likely unconscious when his skull fractured. Death followed immediately. No suffering or struggle, only silence. Maybe that made it worse. The man who had survived fiery crashes, flipped cars, and broken bones, who had faced death multiple times, was taken in a heartbeat by something invisible. No flames, impact sparks, or warning. A flash of bad physics at the wrong time. It's a myth that the report closed NASCAR. The opposite happened. It opened doors. Reform was needed. A quiet war broke out in the sport. Battle of tradition and survival. The question was no longer how Dale Earnhardt died. How many more would die if nothing changed? The autopsy report had immediate effects. The public grief was already affecting NASCAR. But now it faced a harsh reality. Old systems, old thinking. Not enough anymore. Racing safety could no longer be reactive. It needed initiative. That went beyond car redesigns. That meant culture change. Many drivers resisted safety innovations for years. The 1990s Hans device was mocked in the paddock. Drivers said it limited head turns. Others felt claustrophobic in the cockpit. Dale Earnhardt was a vocal critic. He believed racing should be dangerous, and that safety innovations should not compromise performance or freedom. That belief was dashed when the autopsy results were released. Top drivers started wearing the Hans device every race within weeks. It was required within a year. That shift is easy to link to Dale Earnhardt's black number 3 car hitting the wall and the medical report's clinical conclusions. The Earnhardt Report, a 300-page NASCAR investigation, included crash data, forensic analysis, seatbelt tests, and high-speed footage from every angle. It confirmed that the crash forces were survivable with the right safety equipment. Preventing the skull fracture was possible. That realization shocked everyone. because if Dale Earnhardt died in a routine crash, no one was safe. Every racer on the grid saw themselves in that cockpit, and team owners wondered if their cars would make national headlines. NASCAR introduced the car of tomorrow in 2007 after the report led to a safer, more stable, and crash-resistant design. However, smaller changes began earlier. Seat mounting angles, cockpit padding, crash data recorders, new harness wear and maintenance regulations, and most importantly, safer barriers at all tracks. Although the industry changed, conspiracy theories persisted. Some fans said the autopsy report was altered. Others believed NASCAR hid certain facts to avoid liability. Earnhardt may have had a neck injury before the race, making him more vulnerable. None of these claims were proven, but they showed the loss's emotional toll. People desired more than closure. They sought answers. Sometimes the truth that a seatbelt tore or a helmet wasn't enough felt cruelly simple. Since then, the autopsy has been repeated many times. Every anniversary, major crash, and near miss brings it back to the public. Medical professionals praise NASCAR's transparency in addressing the findings. Safety experts use Earnhardt's crash to teach, and current drivers credit it with saving their lives. Dale's car's black box data was chilling. Never had time to react. His steering wheel barely moved. None of his feet touched the brake. The crash ended before he realized it. This may explain why it haunts so many today. Despite his skill, experience, and intimidation, Dale Earnhardt was not immune to physics. He was human, was mortal. His legacy didn't matter to the crash, but the world did. From one final impact came a lifetime of lessons. Reality remained after the shock subsided. NASCAR had to regain driver and fan trust. Transparency was crucial. The regulator released more data after serious crashes, explaining mechanical forces and driver protection. Changes were not for publicity. They are concerned about education. Dale's death also prompted the Global Racing Series to talk. NASCAR and Formula One, IndyCar, and the World Endurance Championship shared safety research more than ever. No matter the car badge, Dale Earnhardt's fate could end anyone. So, motorsport progressed as a whole, not as kingdoms. Drivers' mental health was overlooked into the autopsy aftermath. For years, drivers were taught to suppress fear, act invincible, and never show weakness. After Earnhardt's death, the paddock changed. After witnessing tragedy, drivers opened up about risk, leaving families behind, and the pressure to keep racing, and team counseling was provided. Others affected by the event and the Earnhardt family received grief support. NASCAR has always been family-oriented. It was becoming a sport that recognized the emotional toll on its athletes. Then came fans. For millions, Dale Earnhardt was more than a driver. Toughness, pride, and no-nonsense determination defined him. Like losing an unknown friend, his death was personal. That kind of loss evolved over time. Fans took their grief to action. Petition for safety. Technical discussions about preventing deaths flooded online forums. Safety may have been discussed in NASCAR for the first time. The white background black number 3 became a symbol. It went beyond remembrance. It was about progress. When a driver escapes a crash or a fan sees a mangled car roll into the pit with the driver unharmed, they remember that one man's life made that possible. The autopsy didn't end Dale Earnhardt's story. It was pivotal. It transformed tragedy. The legacy. After Dale Earnhardt's death, his story continued. It started a legacy that went beyond his 7 championships and 76 career wins. The events of February 18, 2001 changed racing safety. Protection of drivers. This sport honors its fallen heroes. In the days after the crash, Daytona International Speedway was packed with fans. Some brought flowers, a few handwritten letters. Many stared silently at Turn 4 at the legend-ending wall. It became sacred. An impromptu memorial with national tributes. While mourning was public, most of the aftermath was private. Dale Earnhardt was behind every plan for NASCAR's biggest safety overhaul. Crash test data became a standard. He was studied after his autopsy. His driving seat, helmet, and neck angle at impact were data points in a campaign to prevent it. His family endured that change. For legacy and victory, Dale Earnhardt Jr. returned to racing. He represented the sport's next generation, earning respect for his skill and his father's legacy.